You actually answered yourself. The issue of the Middle Eastern peace process, wider Middle Eastern issues will be discussed at the Foreign Affairs Council this Friday. So let's not get ahead of those discussions. There will be a press conference. You can ask the questions there. On the sanctions, indeed, it's up to the member states. At this stage, let's not speculate. You know that there are discussions ongoing among the member states. At this point, there's no need to say anything on this publicly. The EU was very clear on numerous occasions how we see the annexation. We said in a number of statements that annexation will not pass unnoticed, or if it proceeds, there will be a reaction from the side of the European Union. But let's not jump ahead of the issues. The member states are discussing, will be discussing the issues of the wider Middle East, of the Middle Eastern peace process, developments on the ground, and FAC will be probably a right platform to address these questions.
If I can follow up. Can I follow up, Eric?
Sure, Lawrence, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a question of speculation. As you all know, the EAS frequently circulates non-papers and recommendations ahead of these discussions. So it's a question of fact. Has the High Rep circulated a paper or made a suggestion to the member states at this stage of some kind of sanctions if Israel goes ahead?
Well, circulation of papers, documents, reports, and other material or information within the institutions is usually an internal affair, and it's not a subject of a public showcasing and discussions and public commenting. So there are discussions among the member states on a number of issues which are not necessarily translated into the public commentaries. And as I said, the member states are exchanging regularly on issues of current affairs, pressing issues, etc., etc. And if there is enough material or enough substance for a decision is made, as it's the case with all the recurrent developments and issues. So as I said, I'm not going to go into commenting on internal procedures, internal discussions. There's a reason why diplomacy is working in this discrete forum and not in public commentaries.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Athanasios, is your question on foreign affairs?
Yes, and exactly on Israel in the very specific case. I may be out of the loop and it might sound naive. Why do we already call it an annexation, this action that's going on there? And are we also taking into consideration the Israeli side that says there are security concerns, quite legitimate, including, of course, terrorist attacks, numerous terrorist attacks every day, killing innocents, to justify these actions, this potential, let's say, annexation or whatever of that area. So is that taken into account, and what are we doing to, let's say, support and protect the, let's say, only Western democracy in the area against those threats? Thanks.
I think the EU is quite vocal and very firm in stressing and underlining our understanding for the security needs of Israel. This is, I think there is no doubt about that. But what we are saying is respecting international law. If an issue of annexation is going to be floated and followed up with concrete actions, this is something against international law. The EU is based on respect of international law. And if there are issues, we are encouraging everyone to follow the line of international law and solve the issues based on that premise. So this is what the EU is saying when this controversial issue is being mentioned. But it doesn't exclude what we are doing bilaterally with Israel and with the amount of support we are showing to Israel in general over the years.
Follow up.
Go ahead, Athanasios.
Can I ask who is not returning to the negotiation table in this issue?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Who is the one that's not returning to the negotiation table for a two-state solution or whatever solution, the Israel-Palestine conflict?
Well, I think that's not a right question for the EU. You know that the EU is not party of the conflict. The EU is someone who is standing there supporting both sides to restart the talks, sit down behind the negotiating table and try to find a solution which is long overdue.
All right.
Thank you, Athanasios. Okay, I see that some of you still have your hand raised, although I think you've asked the questions that you wanted. Lawrence, Lorenzo, Patrizia. Patrizia, do you have another question?
I wanted to go back on the sanctions thing for Israel. But
okay.
in case, yeah, I would like to understand what is the range of sanctions that could be envisaged, although, I mean, the discussion is still ongoing and all that. But what are the sanctions that could be decided? Thank you.
The timing, the nature and the scope of the sanctions is decided by the member states in a unanimous decision. So, I mean, the member states are in the driving seat and they decide about what sanctions are appropriate for a particular issue if the EU sees the need to react to developments by invoking the sanctions.
Thank you. Lorenzo, did you have another question?